Ethan Carter had built an empire worth billions, but nothing in the boardrooms he conquered could have prepared him for the heartbreaking truth waiting inside his own mansion. The woman he planned to marry looked perfect in public, admired by everyone for her beauty and elegance. Yet behind the luxurious walls of their home, someone was living a nightmare that no one dared to reveal. The shocking truth did not come from security cameras, private investigators, or suspicious employees. It came from the innocent lips of a frightened little toddler who barely knew how to speak, but carried a truth powerful enough to destroy an engagement forever. Before we continue, if you believe kindness is the greatest measure of a person's character, and everyone deserves a second chance at dignity, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes compassion matters, and subscribe to English Stories for more emotional stories that touch the heart. Ethan Carter was respected across America as one of the youngest self-made billionaires. Despite his extraordinary success, he remained surprisingly humble. He often said that money could build companies, but only kindness could build families. Having lost his parents when he was young, he understood loneliness better than most people imagined. That was one reason he wanted a warm and loving home more than another luxury mansion or another successful business acquisition. When he became engaged to Victoria Langford, many believed they were the perfect couple. Victoria came from a wealthy family, dressed with flawless elegance, and knew exactly how to impress influential people. At charity galas she smiled at children, donated generously to foundations, and spoke passionately about helping those less fortunate. Newspapers called her the future queen of philanthropy. Ethan believed every word. Working quietly inside their enormous estate was a young maid named Maria Hernandez. Maria was a widow raising her 3-year-old son, Noah, after her husband died in a construction accident. Every dollar she earned paid for rent, food, and medicine. She accepted long hours because she dreamed that one day Noah would attend a good school and escape the hardships that had followed their family for generations. Maria never complained, even when exhaustion filled every step she took. She believed honest work would eventually bring peaceful days. Victoria, however, viewed Maria very differently. Behind her polished smile lived a cruel obsession with control. Whenever Ethan traveled for business, Victoria transformed into someone no guest would ever recognize. Tiny mistakes became excuses for humiliation. A wrinkle on the tablecloth, a cup placed slightly off-center, or a delayed response could result in hours of harsh punishment. Victoria never struck Maria where bruises would easily be seen, but she constantly grabbed her arms, pushed her against walls, forced her to clean impossible messes, and denied her food during long shifts. Most terrifying of all, she repeatedly threatened to fire Maria if she ever revealed what happened inside the mansion. Maria remained silent because she feared unemployment more than humiliation. She looked at little Noah sleeping peacefully each night and convinced herself that enduring pain was the price of protecting her son. She prayed that someday Ethan would notice something was wrong, but he was almost always traveling between New York, Chicago, London, and Tokyo. Whenever he returned home, Victoria transformed once again into the graceful fiancée everyone admired. One rainy afternoon, Ethan unexpectedly canceled an overseas meeting after learning an important investor had postponed negotiations. Without informing anyone, he drove directly home hoping to surprise Victoria with dinner. As he entered the property, he noticed something unusual. The estate looked strangely quiet despite several employees being scheduled that afternoon. While walking through the garden toward the back entrance, he spotted little Noah sitting alone beside a flower bed, hugging a worn stuffed rabbit. The child's tiny face carried a sadness no toddler should ever know. Ethan smiled warmly and knelt beside him. Noah recognized him immediately because Ethan had always greeted him kindly whenever they crossed paths. Children often trusted Ethan naturally because he listened more than he spoke. Noah looked around nervously before softly asking whether Ethan was angry with his mommy. Confused, Ethan assured the boy that he was not. Then Noah quietly whispered something that stopped Ethan's heart. He said, "Mommy cries every day because the pretty lady hurts her when you go away." The little boy innocently explained that he had seen Victoria pushing Maria, locking her inside the laundry room, and making her clean while crying. He even pointed toward the service hallway and said the bad things were happening again right now. At first Ethan struggled to believe what he had heard. His mind searched desperately for another explanation. But Noah's trembling voice carried no deception. The child simply described what his innocent eyes had witnessed. Ethan slowly stood, every heartbeat growing heavier than the last. Without making a sound, he followed the hallway Noah had indicated. As he approached the laundry area, faint crying echoed through the corridor. Ethan carefully looked through the partially open door and felt his entire world collapse. Victoria stood over Maria, violently pulling her by the arm while angrily throwing freshly folded clothes onto the floor. Maria struggled to keep her balance as tears streamed down her face. Victoria shoved her against a cabinet before forcing her to kneel and pick everything up again, while continuing her cruel insults. It was no misunderstanding. No misunderstanding could ever explain such calculated cruelty. The sound of Ethan opening the door froze the room in complete silence. Victoria's face instantly lost all color. Maria quickly wiped away her tears, terrified that speaking would cost her livelihood. Ethan did not shout. His disappointment was far more powerful than anger. Looking around the room, he noticed hidden signs he had ignored for months: broken fingernails, faded bruises, trembling hands, and overwhelming fear in Maria's eyes whenever Victoria moved. Victoria desperately attempted to explain everything away, claiming Maria had become careless and emotional. She insisted she had merely been disciplining an irresponsible employee. But Ethan had already heard the truth from the only witness incapable of manipulation, a frightened toddler who loved his mother more than anything in the world. Children do not invent suffering they cannot understand. Noah had simply described what he saw every day. Ethan immediately called his head of household staff and instructed everyone to gather. Several employees, seeing that someone had finally uncovered the truth, found the courage they had buried for months. One by one, they confirmed Victoria's abusive behavior. Some admitted they had wanted to speak earlier, but feared losing their jobs. Others quietly revealed that Maria had repeatedly begged them not to interfere because she needed the income for Noah's future. The engagement ended that very afternoon. Ethan asked Victoria to leave the estate immediately and canceled every wedding arrangement. Society magazines speculated endlessly about the sudden breakup, but Ethan never revealed embarrassing details publicly. He believed exposing cruelty did not require humiliating people for entertainment. Justice had already spoken through truth. Instead of simply dismissing the painful chapter, Ethan focused on healing those who had suffered. Maria was promoted to estate operations manager, given a significant salary increase, health insurance, paid leave, and educational support for Noah. Ethan also created a charitable foundation dedicated to protecting domestic workers facing abuse, providing legal assistance, emergency housing, and financial support for vulnerable families. The foundation quietly helped hundreds of people who had endured silent suffering behind closed doors. Months later, the mansion felt completely different. Laughter returned to its halls. Employees smiled without fear. Noah could often be seen running across the gardens, with genuine happiness replacing the sadness that once shadowed his childhood. Maria no longer lowered her eyes whenever someone approached. For the first time since her husband's death, she felt safe. Ethan often reflected on how close he had come to marrying someone whose public image completely hid her true character. He realized that success, beauty, and reputation could all be carefully manufactured, but genuine kindness always revealed itself through the way people treated those who could offer nothing in return. The greatest lesson of his life had not come from billion-dollar negotiations. It had come from the trembling voice of a little boy brave enough to tell the truth. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like this video, share it with your friends and family, subscribe to English Stories, and help us spread more stories that remind the world compassion still exists. Before this story ends, we have one special request. Please write in the comments, kindness always reveals the truth. Your words may inspire someone silently fighting their own battle to never lose hope. Years passed, and Noah grew into a confident young man who never forgot the day his small voice changed everything. Ethan often said that courage does not depend on age, wealth, or power. Sometimes the bravest person in the room is a child who refuses to let injustice remain hidden. Maria finally found the peaceful life she had sacrificed so much to protect, and Ethan discovered that the strongest foundation for any family is not built with money, luxury, or status, but with honesty, respect, and compassion. Because in the end, every mask eventually falls away. Every hidden truth finds its moment. And every act of genuine kindness leaves a legacy that no fortune in the world can ever buy.